welcome back to the Fixing Football podcast, where week by week we fix our broken yet oh so beautiful game. Today we're wrapping up another exciting weekend of Premier League football, and we're debating an interesting way that clubs who are knocking on the door may finally be able to break into that mythical, fabled Big Six. I'm joined today by Liam and Luke for today's episode. Boys, how are we doing?
Great.
Well, Luke, how are you feeling, Luke?
I'm ecstatic. I'm like the the video of what's his name, the boxer, Eubank Senior.
Eubank Senior. So fine summer's day.
Yes. Just feel like dancing. Oh, you like me now?
Well, I think we can get straight into it, can't we? We can start with the biggest story of the weekend at the Emirates Stadium, where champions-elect, champions-to-be Arsenal have fallen to the mighty Michael Carrick and Manchester United, 3-2. Bit of a throwback game, I thought, between the two. It reminded me of the old United and Arsenal games when they were both actually pretty good and won and swapped the league back and forth. Luke, you, I'm sure, are absolutely elated by the result. Talk me through what you're thinking about today's game.
Well, boys, football won today. That's what.
A win for football.
Yeah, it was a great game going off from last week. It's just keep the ball rolling, I suppose. I can't see us losing again. I think we might be title challengers at this point. Yeah, it was a really, really good game. I did feel Arsenal was putting the pressure on us, but I don't know what you guys think, but the only way Arsenal can score seems to be from set pieces or corners. I think that's what they play for. And I think we kind of absorbed that great, and we just took our chances. I just think it was a really great performance, and I think Arsenal's feeling the pressure.
Did anything surprise you in the game, Luke?
No, I think it was very predictable. I think it was a predictable game. They were just going to, again, set pieces, corners, big Harry Maguire heading out. It was just... I think what's kind of really refreshing to see from a United point of view is we're taking our chances now, and it's all good. I'm ecstatic. I'm really happy. I'm pumped.
He's bringing the feeling back, isn't he, Michael Carrick? He's bringing the good feeling back. I think you said something there that I think was probably more... We can't something that we all kind of know about Arsenal, and it's a joke about, being set-piece FC. But, Liam, you and I were talking off air about how blatantly obvious it is that Arsenal do kind of play for the corner, and it's kind of the only way that they seem to be able to reliably get any joy in a game.
Yeah, I would be very worried if I was an Arsenal fan. This is a team that conceivably could go for the quadruple this year, but they have a massive chance creation problem, and they have quite a few players that are nowhere near the levels that they need. I mean, this week's been dominated with chatting. Who's better, Ødegaard or Bruno Fernandes? It's night and day. Like, Ødegaard is an absolute passenger in that team. That's supposed to be their leader, their captain. And that was one of the meekest performances I think I've ever seen of a captain in an Arsenal United game. You've got Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane sat there, and this is the captain of Arsenal. A man who's hunched, head down, easy, safe passing, just essentially giving to Saka to do exactly what you're saying, Scott. Hit an early ball in the basis of trying to win a corner. I'd be losing my mind if I was Gyökeres, because the amount of running he's doing in the middle to get himself free, and that ball has no intention of reaching him. It is all about winning the set piece. They are devoid of any ideas. They don't even try to create opportunities. And yeah, I think if it was a stronger Premier League, they would not be champions. They are worse than they have been the last 2 seasons when they've not won it. They probably will win it this year, but it is the worst version. They are on the decline. I think Carragher did say this, didn't he, 18 months or so ago, thinking he felt Arsenal might have peaked at that point. And I'm wondering whether he might have been onto something, to be honest. Yeah, I thought they were really poor. What do you reckon, Scott?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Arsenal, I've been quite vocal about how this Arsenal team they're not one of the great Premier League teams. They're the best of the Premier League this particular season.
I agree with them with that.
Yeah, I think a bit similar to Liverpool last year. I don't think Liverpool were a great team. They were just the best team, and the two very different things. And I think it became apparent. I think it was after the Champions League game. Wayne Rooney and Theo Walcott were doing some pitch side commentary, and Theo Walcott was saying, he was saying, Wayne, in 2008, you had a great team, Tevez, Ronaldo, Rooney, he was listing off all these amazing names. And Theo Walcott was trying to position the question of, how would you lot fare against this squad, against this Arsenal team, like talking about them in this like mythical air? And Rooney's response was, yeah, we batter them. Like, literally, we just batter them. And I don't think we've got a particularly enthralling and inspiring title winner this year. I think you're absolutely right.
What I will say, what I will say though, is defensively they are incredibly good. I mean, I know United have scored 3 today, but let's have it right. One was Zubimendi and explainedly passing it straight to Mbeumo. And the other 2 were very, very high quality goals for Man United. They do not, as much as they don't create chances, they don't give them away either. So I think that is important to say that about them. But they're a poor side going forward.
They're just unpleasing on the eye, aren't they? It's. I know we joke, but it is literally Stoke FC to the maximum. They're so defensive, and look, the set piece kind of works for them, and it is working in the top of the league, but it's just not very appealing to the average football fan. It's just very defensive, one goal. Look, you could look at the top scorers. Like I think there was a stat on Sky. The 4th top goal scorer is own goals. It's
Theoretically right. They're the team that's not won the title for the longest period of all the big 6, aren't they? So it's 22 years, is it? It's very unusual to have a team that's not won it in that a long time be so unpopular. Like they should be the one they should be the one that people are like rooting for a little bit over a Man City. So people prefer Man City to this team. And Man City is, by all accounts, like this evil oil giant that is like, but people prefer them.
No, they're the plucky underdog trying to take it away from the evil Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think it's tapping into what Luke said there. It's not satisfying in any kind of way. And I think even Arsenal fans know this. When you listen to them talk about, I listened to one on TalkSport today, and it was almost like he was talking on behalf of the club. It was like it was trying to convince me that they're the real deal, and they are. Look, every title's the same. If they win the title this year, that title counts as much as ones where City have got 500 points. It's still a title. It still matters. It's still the same. But I don't think that they will set themselves up for a long-term success, which is kind of what the whole point has been. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think something's important to point out before we wrap up on Arsenal is there's no indication that this is a season-changing result as yet. I think we all probably still agree that the Arsenal are probably on course to still win the league. I don't think any of our opinions have really changed on that after today. But I guess to put that question out there, do you think this has the potential to derail that seeming procession to the title, or do we think it's a flash in the pan result? In the end, it's not going to make a massive difference.
Well, they are stuttering. It's not. Yeah, this result isn't on its own. There have been some little stutters. They got the Forest result as well. So
it's the attacking output, isn't it? That's the issue. Like, how long can they go on with this kind of tactic?
They are exceptional at set pieces. They have scored one today as well. Like, yeah. Like, and that when I was watching that goal, I thought that is quite literally unstoppable. That goal, like the amount of bodies around the goalkeeper and the quality of that delivery. If you're going to score if you do that 4 or 5 times.
You know what it's like? It's like a Saturday League, Sunday League corner. Everyone in the box, melee, and then the ball ends up the back of their net. But it works.
It does.
It's the quality of the ball from Saka and Rice. It's just outrageous.
Yeah. Very high quality deliveries. And like you said, it works for them. And Arsenal fans won't, and nor should they care if they go on to win the league this year just based on sweaty and horrible set pieces that we all probably hate. But you know what? That's not Arsenal's problem to worry about. But I think we can go from one disastrous result to the next. We can go down to the south coast to the Vitality, where Liverpool, who had been on quite a long unbeaten run, not a very inspiring and convincing unbeaten run, but an unbeaten run nonetheless, they went to Bournemouth and Captain Fantastic, the player who I was told once upon a time professional football is too easy for him. And he had an absolute stinker of a performance. Virgil van Dijk, Liverpool versus Bournemouth, it finished 3-2 to Bournemouth with a very, very late winner for the home side. I don't know what you boys think, but I think that Virgil van Dijk did not come out of that looking very good, not just because he was at the scene of the crime for all 3 goals, but his seeming attitude towards his teammates and the situation as a whole seemed to kind of wash his hands of it. Wasn't anything to do with me. Wind was tricky, this, that, and the other. I don't know. It came across as not very captain-like attitude after that.
We've talked about this quite a lot recently, especially with Mo Salah. And I think it's the absolute top players don't age well, do they? Like they don't seem to be able to accept the limitations that their bodies start to have, and they just don't see it in the same way. And I think it's such a weird theme that keeps cropping up. And I think that's kind of what it looked like to me last night. Like in his head, Van Dijk is still that player from 3-4 years ago, the best centre back in the world in conversations for best modern centre back. You could arguably have that conversation, but he isn't that now. And I can understand the level of quality of player around him in that back four is nowhere near what it has been. And he has to be perfect. And when he's not, it really shows. No one's bailing him out as much as he's been bailing Kanate out all season. There's no one he can rely on. So, yeah, I think the levels have dropped from Van Dijk. But I think it was to be expected. What I will say, though, on the Liverpool centre-back situation is, I can't get my head around how Liverpool were interested in Gay at £35 million in the summer, but then at 20 million weren't interested. I just don't understand what's gone on there, but I suppose that's a completely separate issue.
Yeah, you don't know if his wage demands have gone through the roof since the summer, but if City are allegedly paying him 300 grand a week, so it then becomes a not very cheap.
That seems steep, doesn't it? That seems steep.
Yeah, I like Mark Gay. He's a great player. I think we can all agree on that. But is he a 300 grand a week player? Absolutely no way in hell. I don't think. I think that's fair to say. This is kind of what I predicted for Liverpool ironically in our predictions episode, where I said that there comes a time when the things that always happen have to stop happening at some point. And the form of Salah, he just looked like he was unstoppable up until this season. Van Dijk the same. There's always that 1 year where it just goes off a cliff. I think it kind of happened to De Bruyne a little bit that year just before he left. Like he just looked a bit off the pace, and it was just like, oh, okay, this is the year. This is where he's starting to tail off, and I think this is kind of where we're at now with it. Luke, I don't know this is, an amazing weekend for you. A United win away at the Emirates and a Liverpool last minute dagger to the heart. This is like, this must be like heroin for you. What do you think this is gonna do to? I mean, because Arne Slot, despite guiding Liverpool to an unbeaten run, hasn't really been convincing a great deal of people that Liverpool are back. So, what do you think this kind of result and the manner of it means for good old Arne Slot?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? You hear the rumblings now that, it's actually more than rumblings. It's quite out there that a lot of Liverpool fans kind of want him to get rid of him, which is madness if you think about it, really, considering he won the Premier League last season. But going on to what you said before in regards to the signings, like there was the whole episode of we can't lose Van Dijk, we can't lose Salah, and really they should probably be better preparing for them leaving in a way. From an Arne Slot point of view, I think you've got to keep with him. You've got to. Someone that's just won the Premier League, and I know that they're saying that it was basically Thingy's team beforehand. Klopp's team. He just sprinkled a bit of difference. he won the Premier League. You can't just. It'd be madness. It'd be. But the results are not great, and the two left back and right backs, it just doesn't seem to be working at the moment. Yeah,
they're talking of getting rid of Robertson as well. Or say getting rid of him. I assume this is a move probably pushed for by him if he's not playing. But like you said, you're struggling at left back, and your most experienced and probably still your best left back, you're going to go and allow him join Spurs to leave Kirkez, who he's had an absolute torrid time. You're kind of just leaving him to be the senior left back, which is really odd decision for me.
Yeah, it's basically that they're kind of going through that transition period that United went through when Fergie left. Like, the pattern of the play is changing. Slot's got his own kind of blueprint in what is to play. It is going to take time, but give the man a bit of grace. He's won the Premier League. Don't start going for his head now midway through the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the only wrinkle in that for me, and this isn't even Slot's fault, the fact that Xabi Alonso is now available, I think Liverpool fans who are a bit disgruntled are going to put 2 and 2 together and get 4 and think Slot's taken us down the table. And this obsession with club legends that impacts the red half of Manchester might start to affect the red half of Liverpool as well. You know, get Xabi and he knows the Liverpool DNA, all that usual shite that everyone comes out with. But I guess we'll see. But I think what we can go from one manager in turmoil to another, we can go to Turf Moor and have a little look at Tottenham Hotspur versus Burnley, which finished in a 2-2 draw, but a 2-2 draw that only came about through a 90th minute equaliser from Christian Romero. And chance of sacked in the morning coming from the Tottenham fans towards their own manager, which is a baffling scenario. I mean, I'm all here for Spurs being in the mud, being in turmoil at 6s and 7s, and nobody knows what's going on. But I just find it a staggering attitude towards their own manager. I don't know if you two saw that, the chants coming from the Tottenham fans. I thought that was absolutely scandalous.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I always think with Spurs, like, what do you want? You've had every single type of manager. Like, just stick with something for a minute. Like, give someone a chance to actually try and make a difference at that club. You're talking there for me a top manager who inherited a bin fire. Like, and yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not improved that much quickly, but Jesus, give him a chance to work with it. Anyway,
he looks stressed, doesn't he?
They get everything they deserve, I think, Spurs.
He looks under pressure now. Even in the press conferences, he just looks half the man. He kind of sort of looks beaten, but you're right, Liam. Just
Spurs
give him
did
chance.
that to Conte though. Like, quite literally, the most self-confident manager I've ever seen in my life. Even Conte was broken by 6 months into Spurs.
They're a bizarre club. The club that would sack possibly the greatest cup final manager of all time about 4 or 5 days before a cup final was absolutely staggering. And I just think that I think you said it right there, Liam. I see it the same point, but in a different way of like, what do you want as Spurs fans? And what do you actually expect from Spurs? Because they're not good enough to win the title. They're not really good enough to be consistently in the Champions League places, in my opinion. You came as close to relegation as you could possibly be.
They've had Richarlison up front all year.
Yeah. Which is absolutely mind-blowing.
I'm wondering why they're not scoring goals.
Yeah. Who is, ironically, outscoring every Arsenal player in the Premier League this year. We'll give him that. That's a moral victory for the Spurs. But yeah, it's torrid times at Spurs, and I just think, again, a bit like, Liverpool sort of have an option in the wings. If you were to sack Slot, you could probably ring Alonso and he'd probably turn up at Liverpool tomorrow. And I've heard Spurs fans talking about they would like someone associated with Spurs to be in the managerial job, but I don't really know anyone.
Just only Poch, innit? It's just Poch, basically. They want Poch back, is basically what they want.
Yeah.
Gaza.
Oh, fucking hell, can you imagine? Jesus wept.
Who else would to be? Ryan Mason.
There's a popular Twitter account that's like a bit of a tactical account, and there's a big conspiracy rumour that it's Ryan Mason on a burner, because he's quite clearly a Spurs fan. And anytime he mentions he put a tweet out saying, "Oh, it's my birthday today," and then someone married it up with Ryan Mason's birthday. So that there's talk in the air that he's trying to worm his way into a job via a burner Twitter account back at the old Spurs.
It quite common in lower league football that managers having burner Facebook accounts and stuff like that, and going into fan groups and stuff. It is fairly common.
Love that. I think I'd do that if I was a manager. Don't think I could help myself. I think it'd just be funny just to see what's going on.
In my experience, if you go looking for things, if you're a foot manager, the last thing I'd be doing is Googling my own name, I think.
Yeah.
Especially if things aren't going great. I won't be putting my name in. If I was Thomas Frank, I won't be putting my name in Twitter search at the moment.
Yeah. Good. I think that's wise advice for Thomas Frank. So Spurs are in the mud, so are Liverpool. But somebody who is stock maybe slowly rising is Liam Rosinha. Very quick final point on the Premier League from this weekend.
The manager himself.
Yeah, the manager, the Lego master builder himself, Liam Rosinha. He's now managed 5 games for Chelsea, won 4 of them, and he has lost to Arsenal in the League Cup semi-final. A fairly convincing 3-1 win away at Palace, who a few months ago I'd say is a great place to go and get a win. Recent weeks they've been pretty torrid, I think, Palace. So I'd have been a bit disappointed if we hadn't got the result there. But a goal for Estevao, another goal for Joao Pedro, Enzo Fernandez, our favourite central midfielder in the group, also on the score sheet as well, and a red card in the game that didn't go to a Chelsea player. Which
there we go.
I couldn't believe my eyes. He's literally turning our season a complete 180. Managed to bait Adam Wharton into a red card, and a comprehensive win away at one of our London rivals. So I don't know if either of you two saw the game, but it was pretty straightforward for Chelsea. We weren't really in trouble many parts of the game, and we handled them pretty easily.
No, it was obviously that was today, recording on Sunday, and it was at that time where there's like 4 games on at the same time, and it's just like it's always hard to pick a game. The right choice. I went with Villa Newcastle.
Oh, what another wonderful result. Aston Villa, quick mention for Aston Villa. They beat Newcastle 2-0. A great strike from Buendia as well. That goal was class.
It was a perfect away performance. So I watched that game the full 90 minutes, and essentially classic Emery set traps all across the pitch. They're running from midfield. They essentially would pick the ball up, cutting out the passing channels, drive up the pitch, and it was just relentless. Watkins could have had 5. He got 1 in the end, but he'd missed quite a few chances. But Newcastle are struggling to me. They were not very convincing, Newcastle. They looked poor, I thought, and just completely fell into the trap of what Emery. It was the levels of management between Howe and Emery was well on show, I think.
Yeah. Weird one with Newcastle. A win today would have taken them top 4, but a loss and, seasons in turmoil. They're in one of those weird sort of yo-yo places where a good result and a bad result just really tips the scale like quite extremely, I think.
I struggle with those Champions League nights, aren't they? Because they get themselves so pepped up, like celebrating throw-ins and that in the Champions League. So when they have like a normal league game, the energy levels just aren't the same.
Yeah, good. This is good news for me.
Scott, before you move on from Chelsea, are you happy with the direction? What's your opinion?
Of the club overall as a
under your new blue coat, yes man.
You've not give your opinion of
yeah. No and yes. No, because the results for the money that we've spent, you would expect much more return in terms of trophies and performance and whatnot. I'm not overly against the model as such. I just think the execution of said model, this buying extremely young and trying to flip some for profit and keep the best ones, on paper that sounds wonderful. But I think it only works if you exclusively sign the best 21-year-old on the planet every single time you're going in for a signing. So, for example, if you're going to bring in Michael Elise, brilliant. You could sign him at 20, 21 years old, and nobody's got an issue with that signing. When you've got a space open on the left wing, and the likes of Semenyo are available, who's got 15 league goals or something ridiculous already this year, and you spend that money on two players in Garnacho and Gittins who are not the finished article, could go on to be great players and have wonderful careers, but that's a lot of developing that you've got to do while still trying to win in the meantime. So I'm in a bit of a weird place where if you do this kind of model right, you can probably get some really, you could probably set yourself up for long-term success, but it makes it very difficult in the short term to put up with the shortcomings that come with that model. So I'd like to see us flex a little bit and just go, if we are going to sign these kind of players, if they're not the best that you can possibly get at that age bracket, then just don't do it. Go for a different kind of profile, a different kind of age bracket. I can't really have too many complaints about Liam Rosenior's appointment so far because he's won pretty much every game apart from the Arsenal one. So I'm always a results over performances kind of guy.
You're still in that cup, that semi-final as well.
Yeah,
No,
I think so as well. There's a lot of Chelsea fans who say, "Oh, we're out of it," but if that game finishes 1-0, which is effectively where we are, I think the 3-2 on the score sheet, I think, makes it look worse than it actually is. And you never know. We sweat an early goal or get a late penalty or something and take it to penalties, then you just don't know what can happen.
United have just gone there and beat them.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
we have.
Yes, they have. We've got beaten by 2 goals, so I don't see us having a 2-goal win over them. But
Is there away goals? Yeah.
no, I don't know. Actually, in the League Cup,
I doubt it. Not. I think that's pretty much gone from everywhere. Away
I
goals.
fucking hope not. Well, if we do, then we're very much yeah. We need to basically beat them 2-0 to go through, or get it to penalties and just leave it up to the gods. So, in answer to your question, Luke, I'm quite. He's frustrating. Some weeks are frustrating, but ultimately, we had this with Maresca last year, and in the season last year turned out all right. So, I'm trying to learn to reserve my issues and beef and wait and see what happens at the end of the season, because you just never know how it could turn out.
Interesting.
So yeah, so that's our wrap up of the Premier League. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back for the second half of the show. We'll see you soon. And we are back for the second half of the show. So what we wanted to talk about today, something that, as with most of our topics, comes up in a spirited debate / argument in our Fable group chat. And we were talking about the way that clubs who aren't at the Big Six table, how do they break in? What do they actually have to do? And I think it actually came from Eddie Howe's comments about PSR restrictions. And I think I was less than sympathetic, considering they've spent 250 million in the summer on Walter and Jacob Ramsey, Johan Wisser and Elanga. So I have limited sympathy for Eddie Howe and Newcastle's financial plight, as he would like to have you believe. But it led us to talk about, how do Newcastle, if all things are equal, how can they actually break in to that upper echelon, that top table? And I think something that we all kind of agreed on is that a big problem for Newcastle is where they are in the country. It's just not as desirable a place to live. If you're a football player and you've got an offer on the table from Newcastle and an offer on the table from a Chelsea or an Arsenal, or maybe even a Fulham or a Palace or a Brentford or someone
Can I just interject, sir?
Of course you can.
It's worth pointing out, we're from Bolton, people of Newcastle. We get it. Yeah, we're not saying this from like Silicon Valley. Yeah, we get it. So don't at us. Just hear us out. Go. Sorry, carry on, Scott.
We're not saying this from Surrey, where it's beautiful and desirable to live. We're saying this from Bolton, where we're in the mud, literally.
But it is still better than where you are.
Yeah. So we started to talk about creative solutions about how if you had an equal offer on the table from a London club and a club in the Northeast, the lifestyle of London and the location, as someone earning crazy money, is probably going to make you swing and go towards the Brentfords or the Palaces or whoever else. So I think, Liam, you came up with the solution that I actually hadn't heard of anybody doing, but I think you said there were some examples, maybe not in football, but in other sports.
There has been examples in football.
Was there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Angie Mikalka were sort of the pioneers of this when the Russian league was sort of took off, like Samuel Eto'o and others.
William was there, I think, for a little bit.
They piloted this, and it's not something I've come up with. It's based off that concept, really, the Mikalka concept.
Yeah. So what we're referring to is, if you're Newcastle United, let's keep using Newcastle as the example, could you, in theory, have your home games at St James's Park, but your sort of day-to-day operations, training and everything, could you base all of that somewhere like London or Cheshire or somewhere that the footballers who have that difficult decision to make about where they live, where the kids are going to grow up and go to school, and where are all the opportunities for them in branding and all that other stuff that comes with it, could you realistically and feasibly have your sort of daily operations somewhere better, for lack of a better term, and keep your games at St James's Park? And we've got a quote from a Newcastle fan who's a friend of the podcast, and his exact words are that Newcastle is one of the only clubs in the Premier League where the football is the real beating heart of the city. You're right in the middle of the city. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be. So that was a very scathing assessment of the proposal of the Newcastle training ground being based in Surrey. So I don't know what you two think about this. I kind of thought that's how a Newcastle fan might react. But I wonder, what do you guys think of that as a potential solution for Newcastle trying to break into that upper echelon? I mean, you could probably extend this to someone like Aston Villa as well.
Well, that is what's happening. People are doing that. They're going, all right then, no. I mean, everyone joked about it. We all saw the pictures of Sandro Tonali when he got off the plane to go to when he arrived in Newcastle.
Fresh from the fashion capital of the world.
Yeah.
Lands in Newcastle.
For me, right, and again, I'm not a new person of Newcastle, but if I would look at Bolton with this, I would take a far more pragmatic view on it. I know from those periods when we were in the Premier League, the amount of transfer targets we missed out on to Fulham or that type of club purely because of the London factor. So, living around here make any jot of difference? No, it wouldn't to me. Honestly, if it meant that we could compete at a higher level, I would not bat an eyelid. And I think actually that's what Nicolas Anelka did when he played for Bolton. I think he literally lived in France and flew over for the day before the game. I'm pretty sure that is how it worked with Nicolas Anelka.
That's
he flew
amazing.
up on the Friday, and then flew straight back after the game. Like came for the day before the game for the tactics stuff and trained in France.
Amazing.
So no, it wouldn't bother me at all. And if it meant, if I was a Newcastle fan, that we could make that next step, that would matter more. As long as they're proud to play for Newcastle and they put it in, I don't see the issue. Like, what do they lose out on?
No, I tend to agree. I think that you might get some logistical issues, maybe, but even though, because I was thinking about, okay, is there a lot of travel involved? Does that make the players more fatigued? Do they have less recovery time as a result of this? But then when I started to think about it, if you're a northern club with a training centre in London, and that's where the players stayed, and most weeks, they probably have a lesser journey anyway to go from, because most of your games, half your games are going to be away, and a lot of them are going to be in the other half of the country to where you are. So it probably breaks even anyway, I would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Spurs fly into Blackpool Airport this weekend. It was quite unusual, because they were playing Burnley. And it was news because obviously
Lazy
people
bastards.
who don't know, it's a very underutilized airport now. Don't have commercial flights from there anymore. But yeah, so they and it just made you think like this would be easy, wouldn't it? Like if they're based in Surrey, that's around the corner of Heathrow, and it's like Newcastle Airport is an hour flight the night before the game. Like it just makes sense. I don't see the issue personally, and it's not like they don't have the means to do it either. The academy stays up there. A lot of the operations can stay up there. It's just they can essentially have a high-class performance training centre based in Surrey.
Yeah, where Kylian Mbappe might like to live one day. And I don't think he would like to live in County Durham. I don't think that would be, which is lovely, but I don't think it's not quite central London. Luke, do you think? Because I think one of the main sticking points, I'm in total agreement with you, Liam, in that I don't think it's a problem, but I do think fans would find it to be a problem for this, this a culture and identity thing. If you're not Newcastle, then you don't need to be here, all that kind of stuff. Luke, do you think that having that as a setup would cause any problems with club identity, players being able to bond with fans, all that kind of mushy stuff that our friend of the podcast is kind of alluding to there? Do you think that actually would be a problem, or what's your take on it as a concept?
Yeah, I think potentially it would. It'd be in a negative mindset with the fans, definitely. And yeah, I reckon they probably do things in the community and things like that. But I think that would all change if they say, right, we're signing Mbappe next week, but we're training in London. That would
still happen. Like, no one's saying that they'd never go to Newcastle. You could have a rotation of, instead of the whole squad going visiting kids' hospitals every single week of the day, isn't it? Like and or going on to schools and stuff. Like, it's a big squad. People could stay up there, and you can still do all that.
I think what it boils down to, the thing is, I think Newcastle are knocking on the door, and I think a few more Champions League places, like a few more years in that competition, maybe a few more trophies. I think then potentially we'll start seeing bigger names going up there because they'll want to win things. But look at Man City. But I suppose with Man City, he would just chuck a load of cash at it, let people come. And it goes back to the first point you made, is it looks like PSR is stopping that. So I do think it's coming for Newcastle, but I think let's just let them progress a bit more as a club and have the PR of Arsenal.
The PR of Arsenal. What do you
Yeah.
mean? Let's elaborate on the PR of Arsenal.
Well,
They have a very
they're,
interesting PR
they're very
strategy.
active. They like putting the videos out. They make them out as some massive club. So that's what Newcastle need.
What kind of videos? Like
Some inspiring, motivational videos that
big games.
for big games. Probably
Yeah.
not big games.
Like relishing the fights and all that kind of good stuff.
But if you think about it, if you look at Spurs, like they are considered a big club now because they was in the Champions League quite often. So I think that will come when Newcastle, if they qualify for the Champions League a few more seasons. I think they're nearly there.
I think Spurs are in the Big Six purely because of their infrastructure. Having the best training ground and best stadium in the country. That's literally how they've broke into that, I think. Having that got them in the Champions League a bit, but ultimately they're in that because of essentially the infrastructure of the club, which is kind of what Newcastle could do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think that is going to come to bite them on the arse at some point, because Newcastle could fairly regularly get in the Champions League, but if you've got a top player on the market and he's got his option between living up in the northeast or living in Surrey, as we keep going back to, or living in Alderley Edge or whatever, it's a fairly easy, because it's not just the football. It's about, you've got to move your family over, your kids. You've got to understand where they're going to be, how they're going to be set up, where are they going to be happiest. The quotes Mangel Di Maria's wife always cracked me up about England when they moved from Real Madrid to Man United, and she was miserable. She hated the food. It was dark at 2 p.m. was the favorite quote of mine. Like, she wakes up and it's already dark, and these are all the kind of things that will affect players on the pitch, even if you're able to pay them massive wages, like you alluded to with City. That environment does make a big difference, and I think that clubs like Newcastle, Aston Villa, those who are sort of there or thereabouts but need that differentiating factor, wages only go so far. I think more clubs should consider this as a potential option.
We talked about this as a topic. I was kind of thinking about this when I was sort of going to the game yesterday, like when I was walking down to the match. And I was thinking about it, right? And I thought, what do fans actually want? Because most players will play for a club for 2 or 3 years. You expect them to go and buy a house, like change the nationality from Brazilian to English and become a complete jawed. Like, let's be honest about it here. They will live in a hotel or serviced apartment, or even like a rental property that's probably sorted out by the club. They never really take roots it's very rare that someone actually takes roots in that community, particularly non-domestic players. So if you think about it, really, it's all nonsense anyway. Like they're only living there because it's where the training ground is. They're not moving that. The idea that they're embracing the community, that's just not actually what's happening. It's just they're living in an area because they work there.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Like, if you actually think about it on a human level, that quote, it's just like, no, that's not actually what's happening, though. Like, I get it. Like, we want to believe that that's kind of what we as fans think. We like to think that these people come and embrace it. Like, I think Bourne had Jon Daddy Budvarsson, right? He said he absolutely loved it and he felt really at home at Bourne. He's at Bourne 2 years. He's now back in Iceland.
Yeah. You like
But,
to
like,
think he's
and he wanted
moved
to
in.
stay.
You like
Yeah.
to think he's moved into a house on Mossbank Road, and he's settled in, and he's embracing the culture, and but like, you're right, they're not here long enough for the most part.
Even
for
if
that
they
to
like
matter.
it, and there's someone who liked it here. Like he said, he could imagine bringing up his kids in Bolton and living in Bolton, but ultimately, Bolton didn't want him anymore. So he has to then leave. Like he tried getting a move to Wigan, they didn't want him, and it was like, right, well now we've got to literally move nationalities now, and so it just doesn't. The reality is, that's not how it works.
Does it affect the academies though? Say you're not getting the local talent in, or because the first team's not there, and
You'd still have your academy there. They're two separate things, aren't they? Most academies now aren't based at the same training ground, aren't they? They've got their own thing. So you'd still have a Newcastle academy.
I think that would be an important distinction to make. I think you should if you were to do this, if you were Newcastle and you decided to buy a training ground in Essex, for example, I think it would be important that be just for first team only. And then you have your local roots in the academies. Because you're right, you do want something that, and it doesn't really matter as such, but it kind of does when a player from the local area is playing for your team. It is better to a degree if you can get that.
Episode 1 of the Fixing Football podcast, wasn't it, Luke? Marcus Rashford, your mate.
Yeah, your boy. He's your mate in Nelium. I thought Matt Rashford was your boy.
He is.
He's on the back of the shirt.
Rashy.
So yeah, I think we're all kind of in agreement here that, and this is the fix for today's episode, is Newcastle, Aston Villa, if you've got a top player at the negotiating table, and in one hand he's got the Newcastle United contract, and in the other he's got the Chelsea, he's got the Arsenal, he's got the Spurs, even the Brentford. You've got a solution here now. Pick your training ground up, drop it down south, have everyone live there. Everyone's a winner, I think.
Yeah, and just don't worry about it. Like in life, right, you've got to make yourself better. That's what we all owe it to ourselves, to be better. Now, you're going to have weaknesses, right? So the first thing you try and do is turn that weakness into a strength. Then if you can't do that, you've got to mitigate it. So mitigate it. Like, it's not your fault you're in Newcastle. It's not. It just is what it is. It's not, they didn't build much around there. Like, if there was more other towns around it, it makes sense. Like, it's like Perth in Australia. Like, I like the idea in Australia. Would I live in Perth? Would I? Fuck.
Yeah,
live in
fuck
Perth.
off. You may as well be on the fucking moon if you live in Perth.
Yeah, exactly.
Just out there.
Like, so that's it. So but you can potentially deal with it and have a good football team and all that kind of stuff. That's the only place where football matters, whatever it is that Gregory said. Football only matters in Newcastle, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that can all still be there. Just you might have a slightly better team.
Yeah. So I think all Newcastle fans would agree, after watching Anthony Gordon every week, that is probably what they would prefer.
Not Champions League Anthony Gordon. Just because every Champions League Anthony Gordon is like Mbappe, but
yeah, Premier League, St James's Park Anthony Gordon in the Premier League leaves a lot to be desired. But I think we can leave it there. I think we've covered the points. We've reached a record agreement that training grounds all in London, that's the way to go. Let's just add more building work and more infrastructure into London. Let's fuck the north off because nobody wants to be up here anyway. Let's just leave it. Boys, it's been a pleasure as always speaking with you both. To all the listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share and subscribe to the podcast, and you can find everything that you need about us at fixingfootballpodcast.com. But we bid you farewell, boys. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.